Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance had one of the hardest jobs in gaming history. Its mission was to convince people that Mortal Kombat wasn't washed. And when I say washed, I don't mean slightly faded or just slightly bad. I mean the franchise was putting up numbers that would have gotten an NBA player traded immediately, because before Deadly Alliance, Mortal Kombat was struggling. The arcade era had already given us classics, like Mortal Kombat 1, Mortal Kombat 2, Mortal Kombat 3, Mortal Kombat Trilogy, but after that, things got weird, really weird. You had games like Mortal Kombat 4, which was You had Mortal Kombat Mythologies, Mortal Kombat Special Forces. You had games that made fans stare at their TV like they just watched somebody microwave a steak. The franchise was losing momentum fast. Meanwhile, other fighting games like Tekken was exploding in popularity. Fighting games were evolving, and Mortal Kombat was starting to feel stuck. And then MK Deadly Alliance showed up, and instead of playing it safe, they immediately killed Liu Kang in the story, which is still one of the funniest power moves in franchise history. I mean, imagine being Liu Kang, you've beaten Shang Tsung, you've beaten Shao Kahn, you've saved Earthrealm more times than Batman has saved Gotham, and then the Deadly Alliance starts and Quan Chi basically is like, not today, and then just snaps your neck. That's basically how the game introduced itself, and honestly, that should have been the first sign that this wasn't the same Mortal Kombat anymore. But before we get into it, if you guys don't know me by now, I'm Mr. Frosty Flames, but you can call me Mike. We do anything gaming news, reviews, playthroughs, analysis, and we do it in a chill way with no over editing BS. So if you like that style of content, be sure to hit that sub button and join the Mr. Frosty Flames Legion. We just hit 2K subs, which is a huge milestone for me. So make sure you enlist now and join the army so we can keep growing. Anyways, let's get back to the video. So Mortal Kombat needed a comeback. People forget how important this game was, because nowadays Mortal Kombat is already one of the biggest fighting game franchises in the world, but there was a period where that wasn't guaranteed. The series desperately needed a win, not just a decent game, not just a profitable game, a game that convinced people that Mortal Kombat still mattered, and Deadly Alliance was that game. When it released, fans finally felt excited again. For the first time in years, it felt like Mortal Kombat had a future, and honestly, without Deadly Alliance succeeding, I don't think we would have ever got Deception. I don't think we would have ever gotten Armageddon, or who knows what would happen after that. This game didn't just help the franchise, it sort of stabilized it, and it took a lot of risks, because one thing I respect about Deadly Alliance is that it wasn't afraid to change. Modern franchises sometimes play things incredibly safe. Deadly Alliance did the opposite. The developers looked at Mortal Kombat and basically said, okay, what if we rebuild this thing? We add fighting styles, we add weapon stances, new characters, new gameplay systems, a darker presentation, a different direction entirely. And of course, not every idea was perfect. We had Suhao, really bad things happened, but at least they tried something. And honestly, I'd rather play an ambitious game with flaws than a safe game with zero personality, and Deadly Alliance had personality, lots of it. And this time, the villains actually felt dangerous, because one thing that I've noticed about modern Mortal Kombat villains is that they struggle nowadays with credibility. A lot of them just show up, they give a speech, maybe they lose a couple fights, they disappear, and then that's it, they're dead, they're gone. Like Kronika, we barely even seen her power, we barely even seen the Mortal Kombat 1's Deadly Alliance, Shinnok from MKX, it's really they don't really do much in the story. But the Deadly Alliance from Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance wasn't like that. Shang Tsung and Quan Chi actually got things done, which I like. They killed Liu Kang, which was the main character of the original games. They manipulated everyone around them. They became stronger, and they genuinely felt threatening. They weren't just cartoon villains showing up to get punched or job. They felt like they were winning, and that immediately made the story more interesting, because for once, it felt like the heroes were losing control. Even at the end of Deadly Alliance, they didn't even defeat the Deadly Alliance themselves. They basically killed Raiden in Deception, right? And even then, they were only defeated as a duo when they turned on each other in the Mortal Kombat Deception cutscene, right? The intro cutscene. And that's something very dark, and the atmosphere was very elite and dark. And compare that to the modern MCU version of Mortal Kombat that we have nowadays, I'd rather take, a extremely powerful Shang Tsung and Quan Chi Deadly Alliance that is just massacring and manipulating everyone than just the modern villains that we have now. And when I say the atmosphere, I mean it was really, really good. I mean the real atmosphere of the game, not just pretty graphics at the time. The stages felt eerie, the music felt mysterious, the menus had tons of personality. everything felt slightly unsettling for some reason, like something bad was about to happen. And that's one thing the 3D era absolutely nailed, I've noticed with every single game, is that mystery. The game constantly felt like it was hiding secrets from you, you know, every stage felt dangerous, every location felt unique, the world felt larger than what you were seeing. And honestly, I think that's one of the biggest reasons why people still remember those games so fondly. And you know, okay, it wasn't perfect, but I feel like this game walked so Deception could run. Because let's address the elephant in the room. Deception is better. Deception is probably the best 3D era Mortal Kombat game. I know it, you know it, the community knows it. Deception expanded everything. More content, it had a better conquest, it had more features, more polished. But here's the thing, Deception gets to be Deception because Deadly Alliance took the first step. Deception basically was the best game because Deadly Alliance built the foundation. The fighting style system, the darker tone, the new direction, the world building, the experimentation. Deadly Alliance walked so that Deception could sprint to the top like it stole somebody's wallet. And that's why I think people underrate it, because they remember the improved version and forget who started it. And on top of it, it was really good for the time because here's another thing that's important. You know, a lot of people judge Deadly Alliance by today's standards. You know, they compare it to Deception and to Armageddon. And I don't think that's really fair. You have to judge it by 2002 standards. And for 2002, the game was impressive. You know, the graphics looked great for the time. The gameplay was stiff, but it felt fresh. And even the roster introduced memorable newcomers like Kenshi, Li Mei, and I know all of you love that Li Mei outfit, right? Li Mei, Bo Raicho, and maybe some memorable runs, but not for the great reason, like Su Hao, characters like that. And also the crypt gave players tons of things to unlock. You know, the story took risks. The franchise finally felt modern again, because back then, Deadly Alliance felt like a new Mortal Kombat entering a new generation, and that's exactly what fans wanted. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. You know, Deadly Alliance had tons of flaws. The gameplay feels a little stiff, like I said. You know, some characters aren't very memorable. You know, the roster is smaller than later games. And compared to Deception, of course, the content is very much lighter. And that's usually why people rank it lower on like a Mortal Kombat tier list. And honestly, I understand that. But if you're comparing Deadly Alliance to Deception, you know, obviously Deception wins. If you're comparing Deadly Alliance to MK9, you know, MK9 or MKX, all these games probably win too, but that's not really the point. The point isn't whether Deadly Alliance is the best Mortal Kombat game. The point is whether it gets enough credit, because I don't think it really does. I think it's underrated, to be honest. Deadly Alliance isn't the greatest Mortal Kombat game ever made. I don't think it's better than Deception. I don't think it's better than 9, and I don't think it's perfect. But I do think it's underrated, because when people talk about the games that shaped Mortal Kombat into what it is today, this one definitely deserves a seat at the table. You know, it's up there with MK9 in a way that it just took risks for the franchise and it paid off. You know, it reinvented everything. It introduced ideas that defined an entire era of Mortal Kombat, and most importantly, it arrived exactly when Mortal Kombat needed it the most. You know, Deadly Alliance wasn't another Mortal Kombat game, it was the comeback. And honestly, the franchise might not be where it is today without it. But that's just my take on it. Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you agree? Do you think Deadly Alliance is severely underrated? Do you think that it was an important game in the franchise? And let me know what your favorite 3D era game is. I'm getting a lot of Deception and I'm getting some Armageddon. But let me know what yours is down below. And what's your favorite Deadly Alliance newcomer? Me personally, I like maybe Kenshi. I like Mavado, to be honest. He's very underrated in my opinion. Mavado, Kenshi, and Li Mei. Maybe Natara too. I mean, they're all cool except for maybe like Su Hao. You know, I even like Drummond. He's cool. But let me know what you guys think down below. Thank y'all for watching. Mr. Frosty Flames out. Ciao.